Good morning, friends. Taking forward our previous topic, insight and applicability of GST on NGOs, and as was mentioned at the last, today in this video I shall be discussing about taxability or exemption of certain services provided by the NGOs under the GST Act. As I discussed in my previous video, even though charitable organizations are exempt under the Income Tax Act, it's not necessary that they might be exempt under GST too and might have to comply with the GST norms unless the conditions laid down in the relevant act is fulfilled, or certain services might be specifically exempted under the GST Act. So let's begin our discussion and check out which of the services provided by the NGOs are taxable and which are exempt under the GST Act. First and foremost is renting of immovable property. As per the entry number 13 of notification number 12, income from renting of precincts of a religious place meant for general public, owned or managed by an entity registered as a charitable or religious trust under the various sections of the Income Tax Act has been exempt from GST. However, such exemption shall not apply to renting of rooms where charges are ₹1,000 or more per day, renting of premises, community halls, open area and the like where the charges are ₹10,000 or more per day, renting of shops or other spaces for business or commerce where the charges are ₹10,000 or more per month. Let's also have a look at some key relatable definitions on this topic. What is religious place? It is a place which is primarily meant for conduct of prayers or worship pertaining to a religion, meditation or spirituality. What do you mean by precincts? An area within the walls or perceived boundaries of a particular building or place, an enclosed or clearly defined area of the ground around a place of worship, college, etc. From this discussion, it can be interpreted that if the immovable properties so owned and rented out by the charitable trusts are situated within or annexed to the premises of a religious place, income from letting out of such property shall be wholly exempt from GST, otherwise it shall be liable to GST. It is also implied that even if the property is situated within the precincts as defined, but the rent amount exceeds the respective limits provided in the exceptions, the income shall no longer be exempt and shall be liable to GST. Next is conduct of religious ceremony or functions. Income from a religious ceremony organized by a charitable trust have also been exempted from GST by the same entry number 13 of the notification. So it implies that the income from religious functions and pujas conducted on special occasions by the person so authorized is exempt from GST. In this case, the nature of income is an essential factor. I repeat, in this case, the nature of income is an essential factor for ascertaining whether it will be taxable or exempt from GST. If the income loses its religious nature, it will be definitely liable to GST. For example, in our view, if the donation for conducting religious ceremony has been received with the instruction to advertise the name of the donor, it might be liable to GST, as renting out space to agencies for advertisement hoardings is a taxable service. Then comes training or coaching in recreational activities. As per entry number 80 of the same notification, an entity registered under section 12AA, now section 12AB, and engaged in providing services by way of training or coaching in recreational activities relating to arts or sports or culture have been exempt from the purview of GST. Remember, both the conditions, I repeat, both the conditions, registration under section 12AB and the type of activities which should be recreational in nature have to be fulfilled. If any private organization is engaged in similar activities, they might still not be exempt from GST. Next is organizing yoga and meditation camps. Charitable trusts organizing yoga, meditation or fitness camps by receiving any amount in the nature of donation or fees or any other charges by whatever name called from the participants in the name of accommodation or food shall be liable to GST. However, in our view, organizing free camps might not be covered under the purview of GST. Then comes running public libraries. The activity of running public libraries and lending books, other publications or knowledge enhancing content or material has been specifically excluded by way of entry number 50 of the same notification. In common parlance, a public library can be understood as one which is open for all and is able to cater to educational, informational and recreational needs of its users through donations, subscriptions and many more. However, it seems that private libraries have not been exempted, and rightly so, because they are usually restricted for only members and also charge membership fees. Next is running of educational institutions. The charitable organizations running schools, colleges or any other educational institutions have been exempted from GST on fulfillment of certain specified criteria as provided in the notification number 9 by 2017. Similarly, certain services provided by and to, I repeat, certain services provided by and to educational services, including those run by charitable entities, have been exempted as listed out in entry number 66 of notification number 12. We shall have a detailed discussion on this topic of GST on education sector in our upcoming videos. Next comes running of healthcare services. Entry number 74 of the notification number 12, which is applicable to all persons including charitable trusts, exempts healthcare services at clinical establishments and an authorized medical practitioner or professional or paramedics from the levy of GST. Clause ZZ of the same notification defines healthcare services to be any service by way of diagnosis or treatment or care for illness, injury, deformity, abnormality or pregnancy in recognized system of medicines in India. It also includes any services by way of transportation of the patients to and from a clinical establishment. This implies even ambulance services provided by any entity is exempt under GST. It is pertinent to note that such services provided by doctors and paramedics, whether provided in the capacity of an employee of a clinical establishment or in their individual professional capacity, both have been exempted from the purview of GST. Clinical establishment has also been specifically defined in clause S of the said notification to include a hospital, nursing home, clinic, sanatorium or any other institution that provides such healthcare services as defined and facilities for carrying out diagnostic or investigative services of diseases. At last comes supply of goods. There is no exemption for supply of goods by charitable organizations under GST. I repeat, there is no exemption for supply of goods by charitable organizations under GST. Thus, any goods supplied by such entities for consideration shall be liable to GST. This implies if the total receipts from stationery or uniforms sold by any school exceeds the prescribed threshold limit under GST, the organization need to apply for registration and meet all the compliances as may be prescribed under the Act, such as issuing tax invoices with requisite details, issuing e-way bills, payment of taxes within the due dates, timely filing of returns as may be applicable, getting the books audited under GST, and many more. Let me remind you all once again that Income Tax Act and GST Act are two different laws and doesn't override each other. I repeat, Income Tax Act and GST Act are two different laws and doesn't override each other. The organization have to fulfill the provisions under both the acts as and when applicable in order to avoid any litigations in future. So, after discussing today in this video about supply of various goods and services by NGOs with the perspective of GST, don't forget, if being a charitable organization, you are carrying out any business activities as mentioned and discussed today, in order to continue enjoying the benefit of exemption under section 11 and 12 of the Income Tax Act, you should also fulfill the conditions as laid down in section 11 subsection 4a. That is, such business is incidental to the attainment of the objectives of the trust or, as the case may be, institution, and separate books of accounts are maintained by such trust or institution in respect of such business. So friends, I hope you might have got a fair idea now about the impact of GST on charitable organizations and whether your organization falls under the purview of GST or not. For more such updates and tutorials, keep watching our channel. Don't forget to subscribe it and put your notifications on. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Thank you.